The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The International Monetary Fund estimated that as of Halloween night, the debt of this nation surpassed its entire economy for the first time since World War II. We all know that if you live beyond your means today, you're going to have to live below your means tomorrow. That's the tomorrow that our generation has created for the children who were dressed up as princesses and cowboys when they came calling on Monday night. This is our generation's eternal shame, and it's something that our generation must act to set right. The House is expected soon to vote on a balanced budget amendment that's critical to stop this plunder of our children. There are a number of excellent proposals there, and I'd have no trouble supporting any of them. I do rise, however, to express the hope that the final product of these deliberations proves worthy of the wisdom that guided the drafting of the Constitution. The beauty of the American Constitution is in its simplicity and its humility. The American founders recognized Cicero's wisdom that the best laws are the simplest ones, and they realized that they couldn't possibly foresee the circumstances and conditions that might confront future generations, and therefore they resisted the temptation to micromanage every decision that might be made centuries in the future. Instead, they set forth general principles of governance and erected a structure in which human nature itself would provide guidance to future decisions in conformity with these principles. In drafting a balanced budget amendment, we need to maintain these qualities. We shouldn't attempt to tell future generations specifically how they should manage their revenues and expenditures in times that we cannot comprehend. The experience of many states that operate under their own balanced budget amendments tells us that the more complicated and convoluted such strictures become, the more they are circumvented and manipulated. Many have quoted Jefferson's 1798 letter to John Taylor as support for a balanced budget amendment. Here's what he actually wrote. He said, "I wish it were possible to obtain a single amendment to our Constitution. I would be willing to depend on that alone for the reduction of the administration of our government to the genuine principles of its Constitution. I mean an additional article taking from the federal government the power of borrowing." What is a balanced budget? It's simply a budget that doesn't require us to borrow. So why don't we just say so, as Jefferson did? Instead of trying to define fiscal years, outlays, expenditures, emergencies, triggers, sequestrations, and so on, I hope that we would consider 27 simple words. The United States government may not increase its debt except for a specific purpose by law adopted by 3/4 of the membership of both houses of Congress. That's it. Such an amendment, taking effect 10 years from ratification, would give the government time to put its affairs in order, and thereafter naturally require future Congresses to maintain both the balanced budget as well as a prudent reserve to accommodate fluctuations in revenues and routine contingencies. It trusts that 3/4 of future Congresses will be able to recognize a genuine emergency when they see one, and that 1/4 of Congress will be strong enough to resist borrowing for light or transient reasons. The experience of the states warns us that a 2/3 vote is insufficient to protect against profligacy. Now, some advocate going much further and establishing limitations on spending and taxation as well. But if borrowing is prohibited, there exists a natural limit to the ability and willingness of the people to tolerate taxation and therefore spending. The real danger is when runaway spending is accommodated and made possible by borrowing, which is simply a hidden future tax, and the best and most effective way to invoke that natural limit is a simple prohibition. At the end of the week, I'll introduce this 27-word amendment and ask my colleagues to consider it with the many others that are currently before the Congress. As I said, I like virtually all of them. They all accomplish the purpose of restraining the reckless deficits that our generation has produced. But in drafting an amendment to guide not only this generation, but all those to follow, I would hope that we would do as the Constitutional Convention would have done had it had the benefit of Jefferson's wise counsel, to set down the general principle and allow future generations with their own insight into their own challenges to put it to practical effect. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman